Welcome to Breaking Financial Chains, where we combine practical money guidance with emotional healing to help you break free from financial limitations. I'm Tanya Ibberson, your financial wingwoman.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of my Breaking Financial Chains podcast. It's amazing to be here, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining me. Today's episode is all about this whole myth that money mindset is all about the woo. Right, let's get one thing straight. Working on your money mindset is not some kind of manifestation fluff, or if we think positive things, then all of these things are going to find their way to me on a lily pad. Absolutely not. This is not about dreaming about a lottery win without buying the ticket. This is about deep practical work that can change the course literally of your financial life. And I don't mean that to sound dramatic or over the top, but working on the mindset piece around money, working on the beliefs and the experiences and the facts that we believe to be true, can help to change those small behaviors that can make all of the difference. So I can use an example from a client who specifically said to me she was not interested in working on the money mindset side of things. She understood there was a place for it. However, she wanted the dark and dirty practical things that she needed to learn about money. She wanted to learn how to save money, to earn more money, and to learn about investing. And that was it. She was not interested in diving deep into the beliefs and the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that she carried around money, which, by the way, is the most important part. But then when we started to dig deep into, right, one of the first things you're going to need to do then is take a look at your bank statements and let's have a look at what you're spending on a regular basis. This is not about going back over the last 6 months of spending and using that as a stick to beat you with because of what you've spent and you now no longer have that. This was about understanding why she was avoiding doing the simple things that can really make a difference to your finances, that can really make a difference to what you then do with the money you have left, because you actually fully understand how much you have available to save and invest. And it turns out, after some tears, that she was avoiding looking at her bank statements because it was rooted in her memory of watching her mum cry over unpaid bills and how she was going to find the money to pay the bill. So it was the formal pieces of paper that were causing her an internal block that she had no idea that was there. She just believed if she earned more and didn't spend as much, then she would have more money. So mindset, to be clear, shapes behaviors, and the behaviors then shape the results. That's the whole reason that we're here. And it is so similar to other areas like health and fitness, for example. We don't wake up one morning deciding we're going to lift some iron and then feel strong. It takes work. It takes weeks and weeks and months of showing up for yourself and building on those good habits. It takes making the right decision in the kitchen about what you're eating and you're not eating, and what you're drinking and you're not drinking. And it is the same with money. We need to be making sure that we are starting to create teeny tiny micro habits, teeny tiny changes that will make all of the difference, because they add up over time. It's the reason why investing is such a good example of how to create wealth, how to build income without doing anything with it, that it is about those incremental changes that create a compounding effect. And that's exactly how investing works. It's about the compounding effect on interest over time. So we have to be in it for the long game. It's no good expecting to get those results a month from now. So what is money mindset? Money mindset is essentially, or a money memory rather, not money mindset. A money memory is typically an emotionally charged moment from childhood or a particularly impressionable time in your life, like adolescence, or when you first branch out on your own, or you first go to university and you have lots of thirst. Or your attitude generally to your world around you changes as you evolve and become a young person from being a child, as you become a young adult from being a teenager. And all of that then forms part of the internal story to you about what money means. Because whilst money is a commodity and it is something that we exchange from one person to another in exchange for services or in exchange for goods, we as human beings and our complicated brains do not use money as a commodity. It doesn't feel like a commodity because we've got all of these emotions from our memories and the experiences that we've had throughout life. These memories often operate silently. We don't know they're there. They don't flag themselves to us. It's like computer code running in the background. It's just something that's automatic until we start to get curious, until we start to ask questions and really deep dive into what that might actually mean. Excuse me. You might not remember how much your school lunches used to cost, but I bet you remember how it felt when you perhaps went to pay for your lunch in the canteen at school and you didn't have any money on your account, and the person at the till or the person handing you your food said loud enough for everybody around you to hear, "You haven't got any money on your account, you can't have that food, put that back." It's the feeling, it's the memory, it's the shame, it's the embarrassment that comes from the feeling. The same as when you stand up in a queue to get money out of a cash point and you're at the front of the queue, finally, you put your card in, and instead of giving you the cash and hearing it generate the cash and count the cash out behind in the machine itself, it spits out a printout for you saying insufficient funds. And it feels as though every single person in the queue behind you knows you've not got any money in that account and you can't walk away with the cash that you intended to draw out. It's the feelings that we remember. And those memories can stem from all kinds of different things. And I've got a few examples that I've made some notes on to talk about, and perhaps some of you might relate to this. And I would love to hear from you if you do relate to this. So, for example, a shame memory might be wanting a particular branded outfit or a coat or a hoodie as a child. And perhaps one of your friends has got a brand new one, a current, for example, 2025 right now, a current favourite brand for all of my youngest daughter's friends is White Fox. And I see it absolutely everywhere. And I remember my older daughter, she's at university now, but I remember the first time she put a White Fox tracksuit on her Christmas list. She must have been 14 or 15 maybe at the time. And I looked up the cost of those tracksuits and it was about 80 or 90 quid. And I just thought, wow, that's a lot of money for a tracksuit when she'd maybe not stopped growing yet. My eldest daughter had at that point in time. But my youngest one certainly doesn't. She's 12 years old at the moment. And the thought of spending that sort of money, for me, feels wasteful. Now, maybe there's a money lesson in that for me about the value of money. However, I would rather buy her a good quality product that is going to last her and is not going to break the bank when she needs a new one a year from now. I don't believe quality is necessarily equal to the brand name that we're paying for on these clothes. So let's say a friend rocks up in the playground and they're wearing a brand new coat, and it's a super dry coat. It's the first thing that's just come into my head. And you happen to make a comment to mum, "Oh my God, I love that coat. I want one of those. Can I have that for Christmas?" And mum says, "We can't afford that," in front of all of the other people in the playground. And that can generate all kinds of thoughts and feelings. And then out of those thoughts and feelings, we interpret a belief. And that belief in ourselves comes from perhaps a fear of asking for things for yourself. It comes from a feeling of guilt when you start to spend money on yourself because you've got this constant running dialogue in your head about how much things cost. And I talk about this quite a lot in an earlier podcast episode when I share one of my core money memories that I've had to unpick and work through about a bouncy ball. So if you haven't listen to the episode, I believe it's called The What, then go and listen to that, because that was a huge turning point for me. Even as an accountant, even as somebody that trained on how to manage money, I still have those beliefs, for that particular one, that needed to be worked on and needed to be broken down and processed so that I can then move on and stop that holding me back. A scarcity memory might be parents using the phrase money doesn't grow on trees every time that you ask for something. So when you're out for a day out and you ask for an ice cream, oh, can we get fish and chips? Can we go and ride on the donkeys? Is that actually even a thing anymore? That used to be a thing when I was a kid. And I used to go to Blackpool Beach and Southport Beach with my grandma and my aunt and uncle and mum and dad. I'm not made of money. Do you think money grows on trees? Then potentially could create a belief that we feel guilty about spending money. It could also mean that later in life, because of the fear of money not growing on trees and that becoming a core belief, and therefore money is hard to come by, we may have a fear of saving, a fear of investing, not saving. It might create someone who hoards cash, who actually struggles to spend the money, because money doesn't grow on trees, and therefore we need to hold on to as much of it as possible, which means we don't take healthy risks that are involved in investing, which means that we don't buy anything non-essential, which means that we might avoid making the memories on those family holidays because we don't want to be spending money on things like that, because money doesn't grow on trees and we don't know where the next pound is going to come from. A control memory. Now, I've written a book in the past called Your Financial Flight Plan, and I share stories in there around control. So this doesn't necessarily come from child. These examples come from an early age, but control is a huge thing around finances, around financial control and financial abuse. But it might be that you remember as a child, your dad might have paid for everything. Perhaps he was the breadwinner and mum stayed at home. She ran the home and she did the meals and everything else as a traditional, what even does that mean? Equivalent of a 1950s setup here in the UK. Dad paid for everything, but he made it clear it was his money rather than the family's money. So even birthday presents were from dad, they weren't from the family. So that might generate a feeling of needing to ask for permission or earning the right to spend as you get older, as a habit or as a pattern. Even as an adult, feeling as though you need to ask permission, feeling as though you're not worthy of having that money. This is my money and this is not something I'm prepared to share with you. A failure memory might be an example of where a family member, mum or dad or a loved one, started a business and it was unsuccessful and then they lost everything. And it might be that you had to sell the house. It might be that you therefore had to move schools because you had to move to a different area. And that's really traumatic at a young age. I mean, it's not pleasant at any age, but as a young person, small child, something happened. My mum created a business. It didn't work and we lost everything. My whole life changed. We had to change where we shopped. We had a much smaller house. We didn't have as many nice gifts and nice things that we used to have, and I had to go to a different school. So I lost all of my friends, or I was no longer living close to all of my friends because of this one thing that we've learned from something that happened to someone else. So the subconscious belief that might come out of that is that success in business equals taking a massive risk. That risk is a massive danger. So we therefore actively undertake sabotaging behaviours around wealth building because we're so fearful of our current situation changing. And it can be really insidious. It could be the fact that our current situation isn't great, but because we know what our current situation is and it feels familiar to us and therefore it feels safe, there can be a fear of moving on to a bigger home. It could be a fear of having a better standard of living, of being able to spend more money on non-essential things. Can you see how complicated this can be? Because the human brain is absolutely fascinating. These memories are stored and saved and they sit in our brains and then they form those behaviours, and those behaviours become the result and they become the view that we get to see out of our window every single day. They become the outlook that we have on our life, of our day, on our week, on our jobs, on our circle of friends, every single day. Another example of a memory might be overspending. So you might not be aware of that as a child, but then as you grow up, you see the reality of the situation. So that might be around, we always had really nice things and really nice holidays growing up, but it turns out you later find out that your parents were drowning in debt. Or it could be that you had a really happy childhood, but it turns out your parents stayed together for you. So then you've got that shame and that guilt of the actions that your parents took. You feel some level of responsibility for that, even though that's just not true. That's just not true. That was their choice and their decision. That could be the belief that we pick up from that experience. And other outcomes of that could be shame when spending, or a complete disconnect from what's affordable because you had a certain lifestyle and you had certain breakfast cereals that were put on the table in the morning, or mum used certain, or dad, not necessarily mum, we had certain fabric softener, for example, used for the washing, and the smell that you associate with that. And you don't realize that something costs more than other things, and you find that really, really difficult to manage. And add to that any level of trauma. So let's say we have to move house because of the level of debt, we're able to restart the clock almost on a financial point of view. That trauma stays with us. It affects the way that we view things. It affects the way that we manage our own money and the habits that we have later on in life. Again, we're not taught this in school. We learn from our environment. We learn from the examples set to us by the people around us. And if we don't address these things, if we don't learn to look back, however uncomfortable or scary that might feel, and I'm not suggesting for 1 second that you have to have a coach or someone to help you move through these. You can do this yourself, understanding that you're doing it in a safe place, understanding that you are not that 7-year-old, 9-year-old, 13-year-old anymore. You are an adult, and therefore you get to make choices. You get to make changes. It feels unsafe because our brain is telling us this isn't something that we know. And therefore, it might be a massive risk. So our attitude to risk can be a big factor in how we deal with these things. But if we start to get curious and safely question and look into the things that have shaped our money mindset, we repeat those patterns unconsciously. We don't think about what we're doing or why we're doing it. We do it because we always have. And why do you buy that certain fabric softener? Well, because that's the one my mum used to buy. That's what my bedding used to smell like every night when I went to bed, or my fresh pajamas. And why do you always buy that brand of breakfast cereal? Well, because that's the one we've always had. No thought for other things that might be an important factor for you, such as fiber content or sugar content or the price of it or anything like that, or the fact that we pay more for a brand than a supermarket own brand of fruit and fiber, or whatever that example might be. Other things that can happen, you can sabotage yourself to at the exact point when success becomes possible because of that lack of safe feeling around the behaviours that were demonstrated, and then the habits and the results that we're seeing. It feels not safe to have success because if I try and have success, I risk losing everything, and therefore I better take a step back. I need to stop taking these steps forward because it feels really scary. Another way, which is the most common way that I see with the people that I work with, is that you will just generally avoid dealing with your finances. We don't look at the bank statements. We don't add up the costs of everything that we're spending every month. We don't check on those subscriptions that have now actually been paying for months and months and months that we've never used. So we're spending money needlessly. And when we do notice things like that, instead of going, oh goodness, that's a lot of money that I spent on that. Oh well, let's not spend any more money on that. Let's just cancel it now and move on, because there's nothing you can do about the fact that you've been spending money on a subscription that you've not been using, that you instead use that to beat yourself up. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have a belief that you're bad with money, as an example, a very, very generalized sweeping statement, something like that can tip you to the point of See, this is a confirming example of me being bad with money. I can't even remember the fact that I'm paying for a meditation subscription that I am never ever using. It's important to pay attention, by the way, to those things that you pay for, because they can actually be a massive and really useful indicator of your values, of what you like to spend money on, what you would like to have more of in your life. So the example of a meditation subscription or a gym membership could be an indication of you actually would really like to have the time to work on yourself, to put yourself first, to work on your health and fitness, and to work on your mental health. But you never seem to have the time, or perhaps your habits and doom scrolling through social media, as an example, gets in the way of you finding 10 minutes at the end of the day to do some meditation or to practice some gratitude journaling or something along those lines. We don't need to do that. If we address where those memories come from and those beliefs and those feelings and what that links back to on the emotions, we can make change. We are always in choice, and therefore we can do something about it. You know, by continuing on in the same behavior, it's like blaming the spreadsheet for the numbers or the results, when actually the problem is the formula is incorrect within that spreadsheet. We can make a change. We can change our behavior. So I have a little exercise for you that I'd like to share that I often do with clients. And this is a 4-step process that you can attempt to work through. And this is about how we start rewriting the script, rewriting those internal dialogues in relation to money, and how you could then perhaps make some positive changes for yourself, for your family, to set an example for your children of how they can just do this as a matter of course, because they're not rewriting a story. You've broken that cycle, and therefore they can learn from your example. So I'm going to ask you, first of all, step 1 is to recall your earliest money memory. You might have seen these questions asked before. I believe my earliest money memory is when my brother was born. I was almost 3, so 2 3/4, if you like. And I remember people coming to visit him. They weren't visiting me. I felt like a fly on the wall. Nobody paid any attention to me. Everybody wanted to see the new baby. Fair enough. And some people came and they brought money for him, and they would put, like, especially if they had children of their own, they would put a silver coin in his hand. So it's a traditional thing, it's a superstitious thing, whatever you want. I don't actually know where the origin of that story stems from, so that's something I can look up. They gave him money, and I remember sitting there and thinking, why is he getting money? Why aren't I getting money? All of this attention on my brother for my 2 to 3-year-old selves to get jealous of the baby with the silver coins in his hand. Oh my goodness. So you can imagine the sorts of things that have come out of that from me. But this is not about me. This is about you. So what is your earliest money memory? What happened? Who was there? What did you feel? What can you remember? What did it teach you are the important things. And try not to overthink this, because quite often the first thing that pops into your head is the right answer. When we overthink it or try and analyze things or rationalize things with our current way of thinking, that's when things can get a little bit distorted. And what you also might find after doing this exercise, an hour from now, when you're driving somewhere or you're on a walk or you're tidying up after the kids or doing the washing up or mowing the lawn, things will pop into your head. Once you start your brain on, this is a useful exercise that I would like to complete for myself, then it will start to do it for you. So this is a great habit to start to learn. So step 1, recall your earliest money memory. Step 2, ask yourself, is this belief mine or is it inherited? So we're not now talking about the baby with the silver coins in his hand. We're talking about the words that come to your head. Are they yours? Are they given to you by someone else? Are they something you could give back now and say, thank you very much, that's helped me so far in my life, I don't need this anymore, I don't believe this anymore, this does not apply to me. Really think. Sit quietly, close your eyes, meditate if that's your thing, or just let your brain take you where it's going to take you. Then I want you to rewrite that belief. So, for example, if the belief that you have, whether it's yours or it's inherited, is it's not safe to have money, and therefore you spend it as soon as it comes in, because if that might be linked to a memory where your money was taken from you, whether at a young age or a later age, your money went into the joint account and you never saw it again because of the nature of a previous relationship that you've had, or you had money in your piggy bank, but then Dad used to send that money when he used to go out on a Wednesday night, and he promised you he would give it you back, but he never did. So you learned it's not safe to hold on to money. So we're going to rewrite that belief and we're going to flip it. We're going to write it in a more positive way, and we're going to help start the rewiring process in your brain by changing that memory, by writing it out, by saying it out loud. So it's not safe to have money could change to, I can learn to feel safe with money. It is safe for me to earn money. It is safe for me to save money. And then step 4 is to take a small action in alignment with that new belief. So it is about taking positive steps to show yourself you can make change. You are powerful. You are in control. If it doesn't feel safe to have money, that might be finding a clean jar that you've had your coffee in, and you start to put money in that jar. Every time you think about it, you put a coin in that jar. It could be a pound coin, it could be a 2p piece, it doesn't matter. What you want to show your brain and remind yourself to say your new belief that you've rewritten, that it is safe to have money, I can save money, is you just want to see that the money in that jar is increasing. You want to see that each time you look there, you've got more coins in there than you did a week ago or a month ago. Eventually, your brain will catch up. This is such a simple exercise, but so very powerful. And I would love to hear how you've got on. You can journal around this. You can share it with me. You can ask me any questions that you have. You can get in touch with me. Please do have a think. How could this positively impact the way that you interact with money from today moving forward? Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining me today on Breaking Financial Chains. Remember, you have the power to transform your relationship with money one step at a time. If this episode helped you, please subscribe and leave a review to help others find their path to financial freedom. I'm Tanya, your financial wing woman, and I'll see you next week.